Veterinary medicine is a messy business both physically and emotionally. Vetsplaining is one veterinarian's attempt to explain and understand her own profession a little better. Join Dr. Lisa McFadden as she delves deep into the medical and business aspects of veterinary medicine.
I decided, since I am in charge of the format and topics of this podcast, it's really nice to have absolute power. I am going to do a podcast about each position held by my support staff at Independent Hill Veterinary Clinic, kind of like a day in the life. We will cover licensed veterinary technicians, customer service representatives, veterinary assistants, and kennel assistants. I'm going to start with licensed veterinary technicians, called LVTs. Different states have different names for licensed technicians. Some are called registered veterinary technicians or certified veterinary technicians. Regardless of the name, these are the people that are the powerhouse of any and all veterinary hospital. Since I live in Virginia and we call them licensed veterinary technicians, I will refer to them as LVTs or technicians from now on. In my opinion, LVTs are frequently underutilized in many hospitals, and when I was an intern, I learned so much from the LVTs and from the assistants as well, and they really did help to make me the doctor I am today. I can never repay them, but I do hope that they know how much they mean to me and how special they really are. I have a lot of stories from my internship, but one that stands out the most, and I think really highlights how amazing LVTs can be, was the first time I had an animal arrest in front of me. I was on my first surgical rotation, and I was carrying a sedated cat back to her cage after being examined by the surgeon. The patient was given a reversible sedative, and after the exam, she received the antidote, and as I was walking back, she took one deep breath and then stopped breathing. And I was walking at the time with the head surgical LVT, and I turned to her and I said, "I think she stopped breathing." And the LVT immediately grabbed my arm, kind of led me to the treatment table, motioned for me to put her down on the table. And when she saw I was kind of frozen and had this panic-stricken deer in headlights look, and that I wasn't sure what to do, after all, I had only been a veterinarian for 7 days, she grabbed the oxygen and said, "Do you want to give her oxygen?" And I said, "Yeah, oxygen's a great idea. Let's do that." And so we did. We hooked her up to an oxygen mask, and she said, "Do you want to start chest compressions?" And I said, Yeah, chest compressions. Those are a great idea." And so I started rhythmically pushing on the chest, and she said, "Do you want me to place an IV catheter?" And I said, "Yeah, an IV catheter, that's a great idea." And right as she started doing that, an experienced ER doctor came over and kind of pushed me out of the way and took over the code. Realistically, every time I perform CPR since that moment, especially when I was training interns to perform CPR, I think of that day. And not only did that technician help me, she did so in a way that did not make me feel terrible for freezing. And she really helped me learn. Her composure kept me calm and really drove home the idea that the person in charge of the emergency sets the mood and the tone. And there's this great book I was given later on in the year by the cardiologist that I worked with, and it was about a human internship, and the book was called The House of God. And the narrator of the book says that the first thing you do in a code, which is the nickname for the act of performing CPR, the first thing you do in a code is take your own pulse. And that's really true. You just need to take a deep breath and just remember that your affect is going to affect everyone else. Really what I hoped to explain with that story is that LVTs are amazing and brilliant and skilled, and I could not do my job without them. Veterinarians, especially new graduates, are sometimes really hesitant to learn from their licensed technicians. I think this is a naive and self-conscious viewpoint, and I learn from all of my support staff every day. And to be honest, when I first graduated, those seasoned technicians had way more technical skills and in some respects medical knowledge, especially practical medical knowledge, than I did. And I believe embracing the technicians as teachers really improved my technical and medical skills and helped me make it through the internship. I currently rely on my LVTs very heavily. I rely on their technical work, and that includes everything from drawing blood, placing IV catheters, intubating, restraining, performing simple procedures like ear cleanings, anal glands, wound preparation, taking radiographs, reading ear cytologies, reading urine cytologies, reading what are called platelet estimates, where you look at the blood under the microscope and you count how many platelets. Another really critical job of the licensed technician is anesthetic monitoring. And while we do have our veterinary assistants monitor anesthesia as well, the licensed technicians are the ones responsible for ensuring that the veterinary assistants are monitoring correctly, all parameters are being watched closely, and if there's any concerns, they can usually make minute adjustments such as adjusting the level of the anesthetic, potentially adjusting the amount of IV fluids, as well as informing the doctor of any changes. When it comes to anesthetic monitoring, the licensed technician is really part of what improves the safety for that pet when they're under anesthesia, because you have an individual that is skilled and knowledgeable about the effects of the anesthetic drugs, as well as the drugs they were given pre and the drugs they'll be given post-op. And I think that combined with the attentiveness and their technical skills really improves the safety of anesthesia for our patients. And realistically, that technical work is what they want to do. That's part of why they go to school. And sometimes veterinarians have a hard time letting go of that. And to be honest, I enjoy every now and then drawing blood or placing a catheter, but it's not why I went to vet school. And I'd rather sit back and let them do the technical job so that I can be a doctor, and it really helps the practice run more smoothly. I also heavily rely on their knowledge. They have excellent knowledge about the diseases that we deal with, how those diseases progress, how they affect not only the patient but the clients. Our technicians and our assistants are extremely intuitive, and they have a really great connection with the client, sometimes a better connection than the veterinarian, because they can really kind of put themselves in their position, and they can really explain the diseases well. And I make sure that all of my technicians and my assistants are very well educated about the common diseases that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, because I want them to have that experience and that education to be able to talk to the clients and answer questions, because the veterinarian's not always available. I also think that it gives them a real sense of accomplishment and really helps motivate them, because the more they can do and the more you let them do, the more rewarding their job is. I also rely on them for educating clients for physical techniques that they need to do at home, such as giving insulin, or if they administer other injections at home or administer fluids under the skin at home. Your technicians are an amazing resource for doing that. They also do all of our surgical and dental discharges, so they go through how the patient did, what to expect at home, and the medication. My technicians are also an excellent source for training and guiding the other support staff to ensure that the level of medicine and the level of technical abilities that everyone has is up to par and where we need it to really support and treat our pet. At my practice, I have 2 licensed technicians and 1 veterinary assistant who is in school to become a licensed technician. For the rest of this podcast, I wanted you to hear from 2 of them, Tama, my lead LVT, and Kathleen, the student LVT, because after all, why listen to me drone on when you can hear it directly from my fabulous technicians' mouths? First, we will hear from Kathleen, our vet tech student, and I apologize ahead of time for the barking in the background. We had a dog staying with us for the day for a procedure, and he was a little unhappy with his accommodations. So every time you hear him bark, just think he's actually saying, "Hey, hey, I'm here, hey." Hey. Also, I apologize for the softness of my voice. Being new to the whole interviewing process, it didn't really occur to me that I should be close to the microphone when asking questions, so it's a good note for the future. Also, keep in mind, I kind of voluntold them that they were going to be doing this. Both Kathleen was on lunch at the time, and I said, "Hey, do you want to help me with a podcast?" And she said, "Sure." And then I just kind of whipped out the microphone and we started. So there wasn't a lot of prep involved. And Tama had just clocked in for the day, and I had told her I think the week before that I was going to give her a list of questions and let her prepare. And then I decided that it would be more honest and kind of raw if we just did it spur of the moment.
I decided to go to tech school because I wanted a career, and I've always loved helping animals and having animals, and so it just seemed like the natural path for me. So there's prerequisites that are involved in the program. You can do them before going in or while you're in the program. I chose to get as many done as I could before so I could just focus on the classes, because I figured they would be challenging. And they are. Did my prerequisites, and then you have an interview with the head of the program, and they kind of talk to you about what you know, what your plans are, and you just kind of decide together if it's a good fit for you. And then if you get accepted into the program, then it's a 3-year program that you do online at Nova. I am working at the same time. They require a minimum of 20 hours a week. I unfortunately cannot afford to do 20 hours a week, so I actually am working full-time while doing the program.
And how is it balancing?
It's hard. It's good because while I'm at work, I'm learning. My mentor, Dr. McFadden, she's been very helpful with teaching on the job and integrating school into work, so it kind of helps each other out, goes hand in hand, and makes it a little more smooth.
So do you feel that what you're learning in school you've been applying regularly? And can you see how it's going to help kind of broaden what you do at work on a regular basis?
Yes, because there are things that I didn't realize, necessarily went into it. And then once I learned it in school and I come into work and I'm like, oh, guess what I learned today? And then we'll kind of go into it farther, and then I'll start doing that more regularly at work. And then the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. And yeah.
I heard you the other day with the dental charting. So just as an aside, the other day we were doing a dental and nobody could remember the numbers that you use, because just like when you go to the dentist, they don't call it like your second incisor, they have a number for it. And Kathleen, our diligent student, was the only one who actually remembered the numbering system. She was fantastic.
Thank you very much.
So what are the negatives of going to school while working at the same time?
It's a lot of pressure trying to, especially with an online program, because there's not a set day you go in, and you don't have one-on-one time with your teacher. Really, you have to set your own schedule and make sure you plan ahead so you can get all the assignments done on time, and balancing the work schedule, especially because things at work aren't always mapped out. Sometimes someone can't show up for work, or we're short-staffed, and then so you end up going in extra hours or working late, and then you're tired, and then you don't want to do homework.
No one wants to do homework ever. So now that you're in school, because you have 1 year left, right?
I have about 9 months left.
What? Do you have a different appreciation for what Tama has done?
Yes, and I don't know how she remembers all the stuff she does. I've only been doing this for almost 5 years now. She's been doing this forever. And I don't understand how she keeps it all together, how she remembers everything, but she just does it flawlessly.
Thank you, Kathleen, for joining us. She is our veterinary assistant who is in school to become a licensed veterinary technician, which actually, by the state of Virginia, means she technically can do everything a licensed veterinary technician can do, which I take full advantage of. And she has been at Independent Hill Veterinary Clinic for almost 5 years, and hopefully she will continue to be here as she learns more and grows as a technician.
I've got an A in every class.
Yeah, she's a super overachiever. Next, I talked Tama, our lead LVT. Not only is she responsible for the daily LVT duties, but she is also in charge of the other licensed technicians and veterinary assistants. She's really in charge of technical support staff training, as well as one of her main duties, which she has a love-hate relationship, is logging of the controlled substances. But while it is a daunting and tedious task, she gleefully tackles it every day.
Hello, I am Tama Allison, LVT.
How long have you worked here?
Almost 19 years.
And did you start out as an LVT?
I did not. I started out as a veterinary assistant.
And what made you decide to become a licensed technician?
I really loved what I was doing, and I wanted to go that extra step to be able to make a bigger difference.
Did you work full-time and go to school? Did you go to school full-time?
Both. I did the online program, and so that is considered online schooling, but I also did work full-time until the last semester when I dropped down on hours a little bit to finish up.
And how long ago did you graduate?
I graduated in 2012. Do I think it's worth it? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely my favorite part is the controlled substances. No, I like that it's a little more hands-on and that I have more responsibility for each of the patients. And it, when you see them walk out of the clinic feeling better, I really feel like I had that little extra hand in that, and it just feels really good.
And do you feel like you have a better understanding
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It just a little bit of schooling background definitely helps with that, but also because you're more hands-on, you really get a good understanding as to what the different diseases are and the processes of treating and things like that.
You've worked with Kathleen since she started.
Yes.
Have you noticed any difference since she started going to school?
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
how so? Like her technical skills?
Her technical skills have just absolutely grown in a million ways.